In 2004, in the city of Moscow, a group of excavators is drilling into the earth in an attempt to reach the geological foundations, because Victor plans to collect the diamonds that are under there. As a result, there is an increase in seismic activity and Alcoholic is trying to stop it, because if nothing is done the city will soon collapse. However, the businessman is determined to collect those diamonds and continues his mission until the drill stops working due to a power failure. To get enough energy to get that machine working again, the team needs to find a nano-catalyst that is stored in a laboratory that was created in Soviet times. Years later, two diggers find this secret laboratory and discover that there is an ancient vehicle hidden inside. That same day, after leaving college with his rich friend, Dimitri returns home and has dinner with his family while listening, for the 1000th time, to the beautiful love story of when his parents met. The next morning, the young man is woken up by his younger sister, who comes to his room to wish him a happy birthday. Although he doesn't have much money, Dimitri has a loving family and his parents offer him all the support he needs to have good opportunities in life. While preparing to go to college, Dimitri discovers that his parents have bought him a car as a present, but he soon realizes that the vehicle is much older than he thought. When he gets into the Volga, Dimitri finds several old photos in the glove compartment and decides not to drive that car to college, as he's afraid of what his classmates will think when they see him driving that old tin can. So he parks next to the bus stop and ends up being late for Viktor Kuptsov's lecture. At the end of the lecture, the young man has the chance to talk to the great businessman and discovers that he started his empire from nothing. After discovering that the man was a flower seller, Dimitri decides to do the same and uses his car to speed up deliveries. That afternoon, Victor goes to the secret laboratory found by the diggers, but Felix claims that the nano-catalyst is no longer there. Looking at the map, Victor says that the catalytic converter is inside a Volga, but the problem is that the vehicle has already been sold and now his team needs to find it. One morning, before leaving to deliver flowers, Dimitri gives his father a lift to work and, on the way, they come across the scene of a robbery. Immediately, Pavel gets out of the vehicle to stop the criminal and forces him to return the bag he took from his victim. After knocking down the man, Pavel returns to his car and Dimitri continues on his way. The young man is late making his deliveries, so he complains to his father about stopping to help a stranger. At that moment, the young man is so distracted that he doesn't realize he's being followed by Victor's henchmen, who are working on a mission to find the Volga that was stolen from the secret laboratory. After hearing a few insults from his son, Pavel orders him to stop the car and continue his journey to work on foot. A few minutes later, Dimitri realizes that he is being followed and begins to believe that the criminal his father attacked was a gang member. Convinced that he is being followed by a group of criminals, the young man tries to escape, but Boris takes a shortcut and manages to surround him. When he is about to have a collision, Dimitri slams on the brakes and accidentally turns on the car's jet engines. After hitting a bird in midair, the vehicle loses power and starts to fall, but before it hits the ground, Dimitri manages to get it to glide and avoids a fatal crash. During the flight, the young man concentrates on avoiding crashing into buildings. As it is completely out of control, the vehicle spins out of control over the city and Boris has confirmation that this is the Volga that Victor is looking for. After a few desperate minutes, Dimitri runs through the window of a tire depot and, luckily, manages to cushion the impact of the collision. When he finally manages to stop the car, he flees in fright, leaving all the flowers behind with the vehicle. The next day, Dimitri can't concentrate in class because the memories of the traumatic adventure he had the day before won't leave his head. In an attempt to find out where that Volga came from, Dimitri disguises himself as a journalist to interview the people in the photo he found in the glove compartment and discovers that it all started with a crystal that was extracted from a soil sample brought back from the moon. After some research, the scientists discovered that the crystal was capable of altering the chemical composition of substances and, thanks to this, Romantseva and his team created a device that increased the energy of the fuel 1,000,000 times. This machine was called a nano-catalyst and was invented by Michael Elizarov with the aim of creating engines capable of allowing any car to take off. After hearing this story, Dimitri gets up to leave and, during the farewell, Romantseva hands him a manual, written by Elizarov, containing all the instructions on how to operate that Volga. After discovering that it is a special car, Dimitri decides to return to the warehouse where the vehicle was abandoned, but receives a call from his boss, who contacts him to collect the flowers that have not been delivered. Since he owes his boss a lot of money and can't afford to pay for those flowers, he says he'll work for free for the next few weeks. During a stressful day at work, he gets stuck in traffic and decides to take a look at the vehicle's instruction manual to fly to his clients' homes. After takeoff, Dimitri follows the instructions in the manual to get to the building where he needs to deliver the package and manages to park on the terrace without causing any major damage. Thanks to his flying car, Dimitri makes all his deliveries in record time and surprises his boss with his speed. In the end, the money he would have taken weeks to earn, he receives in a few days of work and celebrates by taking a ride around the city at night. The next day, during class, Dimitri plucks up the courage to invite his classmate to dinner. The problem is that the girl he's interested in is the same one his rich friend has had his eye on for a few days. However, Nastya has never had eyes for Max and accepts Dimitri's invitation, who takes her to one of the most expensive restaurants in the city. During the conversation, the young man confesses that this is his first time in such an expensive environment and reveals that he lives with his parents. When she hears this, Nastya feels more relaxed, as there are no restaurants like that in the town she came from. After dinner, Dimitri takes her home and Nastya doesn't mind that he doesn't have a car. Happy to be accompanied by the young man, she walks alongside him through the city and, when she arrives in front of her building, she says goodbye with a kiss on the cheek. At this point, Dimitri feels excited and completely euphoric, so he goes out for a solo flight during the night. The next day, he meets Max in the corridors of the university and discovers that his friend is furious because he has learned that Dimitri took Nastya out to dinner the night before. Jealous, Max asks if they have any romantic moments and Dimitri says yes. What he didn't imagine was that Nastya would show up just in time and, on hearing him lie about what happened, she slaps him across the face. Then the young woman leaves and Dimitri realizes what a big mistake he has made. That evening, after work, the young man receives a call from his father, who asks for a ride home. Immediately, Dimitri gets into his car and drives to the bus stop near where his father works. However, Boris manages to find him first and asks who the Volga driver was who left him in the same place a few days ago. Upon hearing this, Pavel realizes that his son is in trouble and, seeing Dimitri's car approaching, he decides to lure those guys away. Just then, a car approaches and the criminal Pavel attacked gets out of the vehicle with the mission of identifying him. However, to the man's surprise, the guy says he doesn't recognize him. However, when Boris and his henchmen leave, the criminal attacks Pavel, using a penknife to hit him. While he is parked waiting for his father, Dimitri receives a call from his boss and discovers that he has the opportunity to earn extra money making night deliveries. Just then, a woman approaches his car and asks for his help because she has found an injured man nearby. However, Dimitri refuses to give her a lift to the hospital and asks the woman to call an ambulance because he has to work. Without even imagining that his father is the injured man, the young man calls him to hurry him up, but realizes that Pavel isn't answering his phone. Then, when the ambulance arrives at the scene, he decides to go out to check who the injured man is and discovers that his father has lost his life. While placing the body in the vehicle, the rescuer says that if he had received help in time, the man could have survived. Upon hearing this, Dimitri goes into shock and returns home to break the news to the rest of the family. A few days later, while suffering the pain of mourning and rethinking the bad choices he made that led to the loss of his father, the young man decides to act differently from then on. Hearing a call for help addressed to the police, Dimitri decides to help and hitches a ride in his flying car to get to the scene of the fire. As he approaches the burning building, he spots a child trapped on the 7th floor and breaks into the apartment to rescue the boy. After putting him into the Volga, Dimitri flies away and delivers the boy safely into his mother's arms. From now on, the young man decides to dedicate his life to helping others, because he believes that in this way he will somehow be able to make amends for what happened to his father. A few days later, a gang steals an armored truck full of money and tries to escape from the police. During their escape, they run over everything in front of them and are about to run over a mother with her baby when a flying Volga appears and knocks down their vehicle. A few weeks after the city's new superhero began working, the same thief who attacked Pavel steals a woman's handbag and runs off. The man is running through the streets when suddenly Dimitri appears in his vehicle and catches him. After returning the victim's purse, the young man takes the criminal for a ride and, before long, news of the jet-setting vigilante spreads through the Moscow newspapers. Over time, Dimitri and his flying car begin to be recognized by the media and the townspeople as Black Thunder. When he sees the repercussions this superhero is gaining at his university, the young man realizes that his identity could be revealed at any moment. One evening, when he gets home, Dimitri opens the page he made for Black Thunder on social media and is surprised to see a message from Nastya, who reveals that she has been impressed by the heroic acts the vigilante has performed. After exchanging a few messages with the young woman, he receives a message from an anonymous profile, who has written to warn him about a robbery that is supposedly taking place in the city center. However, the truth is that this is a trap devised by Victor, who ordered his men to create a fake police chase, believing that this would attract the attention of Black Thunder. After being hit by a missile, Dimitri almost has a serious accident, but manages to stop the vehicle in time, and soon afterwards he sees Boris approaching. Just as he was about to be hit once again, the young man manages to start the Volga and takes off, but instead of leaving, he decides to come back for revenge. After chasing the car, Black Thunder takes the vehicle with all its passengers for a spin in the sky and then abandons it on top of a building. The next day, when he meets with his boss to explain what has happened, Boris says that it will be impossible to capture the Black Thunder because it has a great advantage over the other vehicles. So Victor orders his henchmen to go after the scientists who designed that Volga and decides to hire them to build another flying car on the pretext that only a Black Thunderbolt is insufficient to protect the city. The problem, according to Perepelkin, is that it's not possible to create a new nano-catalyst, so Elizarov suggests that scientists use an alternative energy source, which is capable of keeping the new flying vehicle in the air for a few hours. During the final exam at college, Dimitri notices that Nastya is unable to answer the questions and begins to worry about her, because he knows that if she fails, she will have to return to her town in the countryside. So, when it came time to hand in the exam, he decided to change the papers and failed instead. When she finds out that she has passed, Nastya is surprised and extremely happy, but soon discovers that Dimitri has failed the exam. Upon hearing one of her colleagues say that the young man had only answered the first question, Nastya soon realizes what has happened and decides to go and thank him. After this great show of care, the young woman decides to forgive Dimitri for what happened and gives them one more chance to get close again. During the walk, the young man invites her to spend New Year's Eve together and she accepts. When the couple separate, Nastya walks up to a store window and takes a look at the clothes while Dimitri gets into his car. Just then, the young man realizes that his classmate is about to be hit by a large block of ice and sets off. After destroying the ice, Dimitri takes off, leaving a bouquet of flowers behind. Coincidentally, those flowers were addressed to Nastya and were sent by Max. Seeing the young man's name on the card, the young woman begins to believe that he is Black Thunder and decides to approach him. During the conversation, Max realizes that Nastya is convinced that he is the city's greatest superhero and decides to keep up the charade. When he gets home, Dimitri finds his mother preparing the Christmas decorations and reveals that he has invited a girl to spend New Year's Eve with his family. Upon hearing this, Nastasia hands her son a box containing the necklace she got from her late husband and reveals that Pavel gave it to her the day he first told her he loved her. Moved, the woman asks her son to give that necklace to Nastya, and Dimitri is saddened when he realizes how much his mother is suffering from the loss of her husband. After finding the newspaper with the advertisement that his parents used to buy their car, Dimitri decides to go to the place where the car was towed. When he gets there, the young man is stopped by the security guards and, soon after, Victor shows up. When he sees the young university student, the businessman is surprised and asks if he has already become rich from selling flowers. However, Dimitri ignores him because he now knows that there are much more important things than money. Entering the warehouse where Black Thunder 2.0 is being produced, Victor talks to Felix about the diamond mine. At this point, Perepelkin discovers that his boss is lying, because the truth is that he needs to recover the nano-catalyst in order to continue extracting the precious stones. After overhearing this conversation, the scientist will warn Romantseva and Elizarov about Victor's plan to use a drill to destroy the city's geological base while trying to collect precious stones. Determined to warn the authorities about the danger Moscow is in, Perepelkin tries to sneak out and is chased by security guards. When he finally makes it to the elevator, the scientist climbs up to the roof and Victor decides to use him as bait to attract Black Thunder. Within minutes, Perepelkin's plea for help hits the news and, as he wants to maintain his lie about being a superhero, Max says goodbye to Nastya and tells her he has to act. While the young man hides in the bathroom, Dimitri comes up to talk to the young woman and discovers that she has chosen to stay with Max because she is convinced that he is Black Thunder. In an attempt to prove to the young woman that she is wrong, Dimitri ignores the reporter's request for help and says that Max will not show up to help him. However, when he realizes that the man could freeze if he isn't rescued, the young man decides to go and meet him and leaves the necklace he intended to give Nastya on the counter. When Dimitri shows up to rescue him, Perepelkin tells him about Victor's plans and asks for the young man's help in stopping him. At this point, Victor, who is inside the new flying car built by the scientists, launches a missile to shoot the young man down and then flies into the car to steal the nano-catalyst. After stealing the energy core, the man sees the Volga falling into a lake and Dimitri is passed out inside. After tying up the scientists to prevent them from escaping, Victor attaches the nano-catalyst to the drill and starts the machine to begin digging. As soon as the ground begins to be drilled, all the employees flee and the businessman drives off, leaving the three scientists behind. After taking the necklace she won from Dimitri, Nastya realizes she's in love with him and, Even though she believes Max is Black Thunder, when the young man returns from his supposed mission, she decides to break up with him. She then calls Dimitri and he wakes up. At this point, he realizes that the interior of his car is flooded, but decides to go to Nastia's and says that he will find her soon. After disconnecting the call, Dimitri tries to start the vehicle, but now that the nano catalyst has been disconnected, the engine doesn't have enough power to run. Then he remembers that the Volga's instruction manual says that there is a tank of nanofuel in the vehicle, which is enough for a 30-minute flight. Thanks to this resource, Dimitri manages to get out of the lake unharmed. Now his next mission is to get to the warehouse and recover the nano catalyst before the city is destroyed. When he gets there, the young man runs towards the drill and removes the energy core before the machine finishes the job. Dimitri then frees the scientists and Elizarov intends to connect the two poles of the nano catalyst with the intention of destroying it. Through the security cameras, Victor discovers that Dimitri is Black Thunder and captures Nastia to use her as a bargaining chip to recover the nano catalyst. Determined to save the girl he is in love with, he goes to meet Victor and shows him that he has the device. But instead of handing over the nano catalyst, he asks Nastia to jump out of the car and manages to catch her in midair. At that moment, the young woman discovers Black Thunder's true identity and, after getting her safely to the ground, Dimitri flees, as he is being chased by the missiles launched by his enemy. During the chase, Victor takes aim at the Volga, but ends up hitting the city's buildings and shows no concern about hurting innocent people in order to achieve his goal. In an attempt to hide from the gunfire, Dimitri breaks into a building under construction, but ends up being thrown out of the vehicle and is about to fall from the top floor when he manages to hold on to the Volga. Seeing the young man hanging with the nano catalyst in his hand, Victor anxiously awaits the moment when it will fall and he will be eliminated. However, during the crash, Dimitri gets into the vehicle and flies like a rocket up into the clouds. Victor immediately goes after him, but when he crosses the atmosphere, his vehicle's engine stops working and he is trapped out of orbit. At this point, the young man returns to Earth and uses a parachute to park safely on top of a building. That night, after saving his town, Dimitri goes home to spend New Year's Eve with Nastia and her family. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.